Hey guys, we just did a big ol' haul, so I figure it's time to balance it out with an unhaul. Like I've mentioned in previous unhauls, the fact that I'm unhauling a book doesn't necessarily mean I didn't like it. I have very limited room and I really only have the space to keep the books that I really, really love. So don't take any of this personally. Some of these I did rate low, but some of these I rated quite high. It's just a matter of space, unfortunately. These aren't in any particular order other than just how I pulled them out of the bag. So diving right in, we have the Southern Reach Trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. These are some of the most beautiful covers I've ever seen. It is what drew me to Annihilation in the first place. And so this is kind of painful. I have held onto them for a very long time, but I've only read them once and I'm just like not super interested in rereading them. Annihilation, I think, stands really well on its own. Books 2 and 3, Authority and Acceptance, are very strange. And they're very hit or miss with some people, especially Authority. Acceptance does give you some answers at the very least, but I just felt it a little unsatisfying. I will always fondly remember them as the books that introduced me to cosmic horror, and I do want to check out more Jeff Vandermeer eventually, but I might check him out from the library. His writing style is just very different than what I'm used to and what I typically reach for, and I think there's some really interesting concepts in here. Annihilation in particular is very popular for a reason, but I need to make space. I'm sorry, guys. This next one is All the Birds Singing by Evie Wilde. I've had this since college. I've dragged it across the country with me, and I've only read it once, and I haven't really thought to reach for it again. So I do remember liking this book. It deals with like farming, I think, or it follows a character who works on like a sheep farm, and I very vividly remember her shearing a lot of sheep, but she's like trying to escape her past, which was kind of traumatic, and there's like a mystery there that the book unravels. But beyond that, I don't really remember a whole lot. It's definitely literary fiction, which isn't what I normally reach for, so I'm gonna let this one go, and hopefully someone at the bookstore will find it for a good deal. Another book I've had since college is Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. I do remember liking this one. I myself got this from a used bookstore for pretty cheap, I believe, or maybe it was Thrift Books, I don't know. This was interesting if you like dystopian especially, or like reading stories about surveillance societies. This is an interesting one to pick up. It's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. It does deal with like the noble savage trope though, so do with that what you will. This was fine, but I don't think I'm gonna reread it anytime soon. Complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Tessa Bailey's My Killer Vacation. I did just pick this one up last year, so it does pain me a little bit to let this one go, but I've never walked away from a Tessa Bailey book not feeling a little disappointed. I think she's got interesting premises, but the executions are always just not what I wanted. I feel like she writes a lot of her male love interests very similarly. They all have like this crazy caveman like sex drive that just like kind of puts me off, especially when it feels out of step with the character himself. So that wasn't quite the problem in this one, but I'm not really interested. I'm kind of over Tessa Bailey in general at this point, but yeah, so letting this one go. Then we have just like a mass market paperback of Edith Hamilton's Mythology. I bought this for a college course in like 2012, maybe 2013. It's a really good resource if you like Greek mythology. I do want to replace this with a nicer version though. I don't hold on to a lot of mass market paperbacks, and I would love to get like a hardcover version of this. I think Barnes & Noble might have a version, but yeah, so this is a matter of just I want to replace it with a nicer edition. But it is it's kind of like the go-to for Greek mythology stories. So if you are interested in the very like base stories that a lot of really popular novels are using as like a springboard for their own stories, would definitely recommend reading this. I was really excited about this manga series at first because it just sounded so cozy and cute, but I just don't know where it's going, and like the main problem wrapped up so fast that like I don't understand how it's going to continue, and frankly I'm just not as interested anymore. And that is The Savior's Book Cafe in Another World. I have the first 3 volumes. I thought the first one was really fun, really cozy. This woman from our world basically gets told by a god of some sort that she's being dragged to a different world. This is an isekai manga series, so you have like the parallel universe thing happening, and when she gets told she's being dragged to another world, she's like, okay, well, I want to have a like really strong ability for magic, and I want to have a book cafe because I don't really want to like do anything, but if I have to do this, I want to be as like cozy and comfortable as possible. So she ends up opening this super cute, cozy remote book cafe, and she uses magic a lot in her daily life, and she catches the attention of the local kingdom's captain of the guard. It's a cute premise. I just don't understand, like like I said, I just feel like the main problem wrapped up in like volume 2 or 3, and I'm like, I don't know where this is going, and yeah, I don't know. Not my favorite manga series. I've definitely read stronger. So this is a cute premise, just not, ultimately I think it fell short. Next up we have Beasts of Prey by Ayana Gray. This is a matter of the book cover change, or like the style of the book cover change between books 1 and 2. The new book covers have the characters' faces illustrated on them, and I want my editions to match. I have not picked up book 2 yet, but when I do, I want it to match book 1. This was a Fairy Loot, like, bonus book, so it doesn't have sprayed edges, but the colorway of the cover is different than what is traditionally published. So pretty much no matter what, this was not going to match book 2, which is a bummer. This was a cute story. It didn't like blow my mind, but I did like it enough to maybe pick up book 2 at some point. So I'm letting this version go. Another couple of books I've had forever. First up is The Daughter of Sienna by Marina Fiorato. I picked this one up because I really liked this author's previous book, The Botticelli Secret. That one was like a really fun kind of Da Vinci Code-esque mystery that took place in the actual Renaissance. So I wanted to read her other books, and this one, I think I picked up 2 of her other books, and this was the one that I held on to the longest. I got rid of the second one pretty quickly because it just wasn't my thing. This one has a lot to do with like horse races in, where is it? Sienna, obviously, duh. But I just remember not liking it quite as much. It was an interesting period romance drama, but it just didn't stick with me the same way the Botticelli Secret did, so letting this one go. Then I have the movie cover tie-in version of Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. I read this in high school, which, like, I'm kind of amazed because it's not a very straightforward narrative. I don't know why I was so, like, I think I asked for this book for my birthday. I was a weird teenager, but I just don't really do movie tie-in covers very much, and this is probably the one I've held on to the longest because it was a gift, so I feel bad letting it go, but I haven't reached for it to reread it, like, ever either, so I think it's time. Next up, we have a few mystery thrillers. I don't read a lot of thrillers. I don't think they have a really great reread value. I did enjoy all 3 of these, but I just don't see myself rereading them anytime soon, and I need to make room on my bookshelf. So first up is A Good Marriage by Kimberly McCreight. This is kind of more of like a lawyer crime mystery rather than like a thriller. This lawyer gets contacted by a former classmate of hers to represent him in his murder trial. He was accused of killing his wife, but he says he didn't do it, and so she's being hired to defend him, and she has to figure out, did he actually do it, and if not, who did? I actually quite enjoyed this one. I thought this had a really good twist that I saw coming, but like in that satisfying way where the author was leaving breadcrumbs, and I just was like picking up on them, and so to feel everything click into place was really satisfying. Definitely recommend if you like kind of more of the lawyer crime court side of things. But yeah, I thought this was a good read. I just don't have the space for it anymore. Similarly, actually, with The Night Swim, kind of a similar angle, but the main character is a podcaster who previously really blew up for solving, I believe, a cold case. And she's hired on to cover a actual ongoing investigation, or she decides to cover the ongoing investigation and trial of a kid who was accused of raping a classmate. I don't think she died. It has very similar parallels to like the Brock Turner case, if that kind of turns you off, because it does have a lot of really familiar feeling things to a real life case. But otherwise, I did think this was really good. while she's covering this case, she also starts receiving these letters urging her to look into a cold case that happened, I think, like 30 or 40 years prior to this, and they are maybe connected. So I did quite enjoy this. I think it's coming out with a sequel where it's like the same podcaster covering a different thing. So I might pick that one up from the library because I did like the writing on this one, but I did read a previous book by Megan Golden called The Escape Room, and I hated that. So this author's a little hit or miss for me, at least so far, but I did quite enjoy this one. And if you are looking for like a podcasty kind of angle to a thriller, this is a really good one. This next one is so controversial. I liked it, actually, but like the author in general for me is very hit or miss. That is Riley Sager's Survive the Night. This takes place in the 90s and follows a girl who gets in the car with a stranger with someone who might be a serial killer. And so she has to kind of figure out, is he the serial killer, and how to stop him. A lot of people did not like this one. The main character makes a lot of really dumb decisions. You have to like go into that knowing that and accepting it because it's infuriating, but there wouldn't be a story if she didn't make dumb decisions, unfortunately. It also really hinges on the fact that it takes place in like the 80s or 90s because she doesn't have a cell phone and like she can't look anything up. Like she's completely cut off while she's in this car with this guy. So you kind of have to suspend your modern sense of disbelief when it comes to certain elements of this book. There is also that unreliable narrator element where like she has like these weird cinematic hallucinations that make her kind of black out and not process what's actually happening in reality. So again, certain elements really hinge on her not trusting herself and what she is perceiving. But if you go into this with like a head empty, no brain cells kind of mindset, it's fun, it's entertaining. I got a kick out of it. The twist knocked me on my ass. Riley Sager, I really struggle with. It really bothers me that he only writes about women and that his pen name is like, feels purposely ambiguous. I don't know. I've read books by him that I enjoy. This was one of them, but I do recognize that this is not like a very strong thriller. So I'm letting this one go. Next up, we have The Gollum and the Genie by Helene Wecker. This was good. It's like a historical kind of fantasy. Takes place in early, I believe, 20th century. Yeah, very late 19th century, early 20th century New York City. And it follows a Gollum and a Genie who meet. And they have very separate natures, but they both are sort of outcasts in this new world that they find themselves in. And they cling to each other as they kind of help try to fit in. Or help one another try to fit in. This was good. It was well written. I just don't see myself rereading it, and I don't really have much of an interest in picking up the sequel. I thought this one wrapped up really nicely, and I would just rather it go to somebody who would maybe appreciate it a little bit more and want to read both books. Next up, I have a couple DNFs. First being The City of Dusk by Tara Sim. I tried reading this in December as like a backlist NetGalley project of mine, but I just could not get through it. I got about 100 pages in and I just did not care about the characters. The plot felt really thin to me and I really did not like the writing style. So it hurts because this was a special edition, but I gotta let it go. It just was not for me, and 2023 is about me like making very conscious decisions about what I'm reading and making sure that I'm enjoying what I'm reading. So gotta let this one go. Then I have The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. I tried reading this in October. Same thing, I got about 100 pages into it, and this one was just so convoluted. Like, there was way too much happening, in my opinion. It all kind of centered on one family who, like, recently moved into the deceased father's house, and, like, it has a lot of bad memories for him, but also maybe it's haunted, but also his son can see people's, like, anger and sadness and fear. Also, there's a serial killer ghost in the woods. And also, there's, like, a mining accident ghost. There was so much happening. Oh, and also the wife's, like, sculptures come to life. It was too much, and, like, not enough was being revealed quickly enough for me to, like, connect the dots and care. So, I just, this was really disappointing because I was looking forward to this one for, like, a while. Like, I picked it up very shortly after it came out, and I was holding on to it specifically to read in October, and it just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. So letting this one go. I didn't really get far enough in this one to really even mark it on my Goodreads, much less mark it as a DNF, but I picked up Richard Roeper's How Not to Die Alone. This came out a few years ago, and I believe it was a Book of the Month choice at one point. I could not vibe with this one. It follows a guy who makes sure that people who have, like, no family connections left get, like, proper funerals and burials and stuff. Like, he works for the government somewhere in the UK. That is already kind of a bummer of a job, and he does not feel fulfilled very much doing that, and, like, he's depressed. But also, for some reason, everyone at work thinks he's married and has 2 children, when in fact he does not. And then a new hire starts, and he starts to have feelings for her, but, like, everyone thinks that he's married and has children, so, like, he can't move forward with this new girl that he really connects with. It's just such a bummer, and, like, all the problems in this book feel like they could be solved by just communicating like a normal person. So just the fact that he got himself in this situation immediately enraged me, and I got, like, 30 pages in, and I was like, I can't do this book. So luckily I did not pay very much for this. I think I picked this up in the 50-cent bin of my local bookstore, so not a huge loss. I have held on to this one for a while. This was kind of part of my, like, very loose Goodreads backlist project, where I've been trying to get through some of the oldest books on my want to read list, and this was on page 1, so I've had it for a while. I've had it on my radar for a while. I don't know why I thought I would like it, though, because nothing about the setup really does anything for me. Next up, I have Ace of Spades by Ferda Abike Ayemidi. This was really good. I gave this 4 stars. It's very much like Gossip Girl meets Get Out. I just don't have room for it, and I don't see myself rereading it. Similarly to some of the other books, it's a thriller and also kind of a bummer, and I just don't reach for those for rereads very often. I usually seek out comfort reads, and this is the opposite of comforting. Don't pick up this book lightly. It is really good, but I don't have space for it anymore. Oh, another manga. We have volume 1 of My Dress Up Darling. This isn't bad. I just felt creepy reading it. I don't know. It's about high schoolers, but it feels very adult. There's these 2 kids who are unlikely friends. One of them is, like, a very sheltered guy who likes to make dolls, like, I think they're called Hina dolls, which are very, like, traditional porcelain dolls. And this girl who's super popular likes to cosplay, but she has no skills when it comes to sewing or anything. So they work together to make her these really incredible cosplays, and she starts to get, like, really popular on social media and stuff. The reason I feel creepy is it's very male gazy, which I believe actually it's written by a woman, but, like, just, like, the panty shots and, like, the cleavage, and, like, she specifically cosplays characters from, like, very adult video games and shows and stuff. I just felt creepy reading it. I'm like, these kids are underage. Realistically, I know teenagers delve into this stuff. It's fine. I just don't need to read a manga about it. I don't know. I'm torn on it. I have heard, like, I picked this up on a recommendation from my best friend. I trust that it is really good. I might pick up the anime or watch the anime at some point. I just felt creepy reading it and buying it. I don't know. I'm torn, but I'm getting rid of it. Next up, we have Star Daughter by Shweta Thrikar. This was pretty good. I picked this up in 2020, but I've since found an Owl Crate version. I'm still not even sure if I'm going to hold on to that. I haven't felt the urge to reread this. We follow a young woman, I think she's a teenager actually, she's 17, yeah, named Shital, who knows that she's the daughter of a star, but, like, can't reveal that side to her because she lives as a mortal, until one day she gets invited to compete in, like, these games that these different star families hold. I don't remember why they hold these competitions. Oh, they decide the next ruling of the House of Heavens. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. This was fine, but it's just not super memorable, and I think I'm gonna let it go. Finally, in this Unhaul, we have The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. This is a sorority girl, like, witch coven story that was fun, but again, ultimately just, like, not super memorable. We follow 2 characters, one who's, like, a legacy sorority girl. She comes from a family of witches, and then another one finds out that she is a witch and comes from, like, a very non-traditional college background. Her and her mom traveled all over the country and moved a lot, and so she's finally like looking for something more stable, and then she finds out she's a witch. So it was interesting getting like these different perspectives, and as a former person who went to college, it was fun to read about like sorority shenanigans. But I don't know, again, not super memorable, and I haven't felt the urge to pick up the sequel, The Monarchs, so I figured that's a good sign to let this one go. All right, and that wraps up this unhaul. Not as many books as I just hauled, but it's harder and harder every time, especially with some books that I've had for quite some time. It's never easy to purge my collection, but it's something that I have to do every now and then in order to make room for new stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to check out my links down in the description box below, leave a comment, like my video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, have a lovely day.